Without a doubt, I think everyone can agree that this week's chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen was honestly action-packed from start to finish, and everything about the chapter was amazing. There wasn't a lot of dialogue, we didn't learn a lot of different things, but it was just non-stop action, non-stop hand-to-hand combat, and obviously Gojo and Sukuna kind of having really funny moments, them kind of just being able to release and go fully all out against an opponent, since we have to remember that these two people do not really have anybody in this world currently that can really match them completely. So for them to finally be able to go all out and really have fun, quote unquote, I can definitely see them kind of enjoying themselves, especially when you see them basically joking around at the end of the chapter. Before we jump into this week's chapter review of Jujutsu Kaisen, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy anything you see on this channel. I make a lot of videos similar to this, and if you enjoy anything, just make sure to stop by again. Thank you. The chapter this week actually starts off with Sukuna giving a little bit of trash talk to Gojo, just setting himself up to be the bigger person in this fight, and this is Sukuna's way of doing things. He is very arrogant, very full of himself, and obviously he believes he's going to win this fight, so he's going to give his trash talk in the beginning. I really do like Gojo's response to all of this, though, him just asking why exactly he still has Megumi's face going on, since we know that he can change his face and his appearance. He can revert back to what he's supposed to look like, but he's choosing to look like Megumi right now, and Gojo assumes that he did this so that he would probably feel sad or feel bad about hurting him, but Gojo himself says that, like, I really don't care, I'm still going to go all out against you. I definitely love the fact that we have a small little panel of Toji kind of in there, so obviously this is because Toji is Megumi's dad, so, you know, and Gojo and Toji don't have the best history together, so obviously it seems like Gojo still kind of holds a grudge against it. He obviously puts up with Megumi because it's Megumi, he's not his dad, but it's just funny seeing him bring up Toji again. This is easily where the chapter really starts to heat up, and we see Gojo literally tell him that, you know, you're in Megumi's body, yes, but at the same time, I'm going to go after you with the intent to end you. So it's the same thing that I said in the beginning of the video, that they are both going all out against each other, and these two are probably the only people in this world right now that can really go all out against one another. Of course, right at the start of the fight, we see Gojo doing some silly things. We see him literally make himself go flat onto the floor just to avoid one of the punches from Sukuna. And with that signature Gojo smile on his face, he literally flicks Sukuna away into a building, and it causes big damage. The city is not going to survive this fight. I hope you guys realize that right now, and we're going to see that at the end of the chapter, but the city's definitely not going to survive the fight, but it's just funny seeing Gojo do that to Sukuna. We again also just see just how dominant Gojo is in hand-to-hand combat. We've always known that he's very good at hand-to-hand combat, not just, you know, sending out red and blue and purple, but his hand-to-hand combat is honestly second to none. After sending Sukuna through that wall, we see that Gojo doesn't skip a beat at all, and he's already right on top of Sukuna and trying to literally do the most deadly kick on him, and Sukuna realizes this at the last second, is able to kind of throw himself backwards and move away from it, but we can only imagine what would have happened if that would have connected. So it really does just show just how dominant Gojo is at hand-to-hand combat and just fighting in general. Right now, it's definitely looking like a very Gojo-centered fight, so all the people that wanted Gojo to win, they're definitely eating good during this chapter, and we haven't seen a lot from Sukuna. It's kind of just him evading different attacks from Gojo and kind of trying to survive at this moment. I think this definitely was to be expected. Gojo wasn't to be taken lightly, and Sukuna knew this going into the fight, but I do think Sukuna is going to have a bunch more tricks up his sleeve. Right now, we're kind of just getting Gojo letting off, showing what he can do from the author. Gege is kind of showing us what Gojo can do. I'm assuming after the break, we're going to kind of see more of what Sukuna can do, and then after that, when the fight continues on, we're going to kind of see them get more evenly matched and kind of just go for the death, go for the kill, try to get each other down and out. Although that is probably going to be the case in the future, for right now, it is just interesting seeing Gojo really dog walk Sukuna this easily. He does this so much so that he's just effortlessly throwing building pieces at Sukuna, just casually, just throwing it like it's easy. And I see a really cool comparison where we see when Yuji was fighting against Sukuna, Yuji was throwing really smaller just rocks off the floor, and now we see somebody on Gojo's level just throwing a building casually. So there is tiers to this, there are like levels to this sorcerer thing, and Gojo is definitely at the top of that. Sukuna is of course Sukuna though, so the building doesn't really do too much to him. He's able to kind of casually shrug it off, which is to be expected, but at the same time it's still just such a cool feat seeing him just casually throw a building piece at him. Now this next portion of the chapter is very interesting to me on the fact that Sukuna decided to use dismantle instead of cleave to try to hit Gojo, or maybe not try to hit Gojo, since it seems like from the panel and from what I'm seeing, Gojo himself is kind of confused as to why he decided to cleave or dismantle the building instead of Gojo himself, and he kind of looks up and at the building kind of thinking like, you know, why did he do that? And I don't know why he didn't just use cleave on Gojo at the moment, moment, since we kind of assumed that maybe his cleave will work on him if it can adjust to his cursed energy, but maybe right now in the fight, Sukuna doesn't want to kind of reveal that hand against Gojo, and he's instead going to use Dismantle to try to use the environment to give himself an advantage. I am not sure, but it is kind of weird that he used Dismantle on that building instead of cleave, and it kind of catches Gojo off guard as we see in the chapter. I feel like this is further emphasized by the fact that after he does this, he tries to actually punch Gojo, and this is the first time that he's been able to kind of get very close and go really on the offensive against Gojo, and Gojo uses his infinity to stop the punch from happening, but he also then deactivates infinity to give himself the opportunity to actually grab onto Sukuna and throw him inside of the building, or just throw him around in general. I feel like that's the case, or maybe I'm reading just a bit too much into it, but maybe Gojo himself didn't necessarily want to deactivate his infinity, and it happened for some reason. I don't know why, but it does just seem weird that Gojo's face kind of like went really weird during these panels, but maybe I'm reading too much into it, but maybe for some reason Gojo's infinity deactivated itself and he kind of used the opportunity inside the building to make space between himself and Sukuna, but it could just be reading too much into it. Maybe it could be due to my theory of this actually being a Yuji kind of inside of Gojo right now, using his powers, and he's just not very adept at it. I don't know, maybe I'm reading just way too much into it, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Continuing on with the fight, we see them inside of this building, and we see that a door is kind of blocking their fields of view for both of them, and we see them kind of charge up their attacks to try to hit each other, and this completely shatters the building. This completely destroys it, and we get one of the coolest panels at the end of the chapter. I just thought it was so cool seeing them literally walk out from the smoke and just talking to each other just casually, like, yeah, I'm just gonna blame this whole city being destroyed on you, and it's just so cool seeing them do this. I love this from the chapter. I love how the chapter is just such high stakes technically, but we see them both just really letting loose and having fun against opponents that they can actually go all out against. And of course, this chapter ends off with Gojo being himself. He's saying, oh shoot, isn't May kind of, streaming this right now? And we actually have a break next week, so no chapter next week, but this chapter this week was just so good. I'm actually going to be able to contain myself for next week by, maybe rereading this chapter a couple of times. I definitely enjoyed this chapter. I think from just a combat perspective and just, from the fact that we just got non-stop action, this was a 10 out of 10 chapter. There wasn't a lot of story progression, but I did really enjoy the fight. The fight specifically, it was just amazing, honestly. I do want to know everybody's interpretation of that dismantle bit in the chapter though. What do you guys think about that? I just think it's very weird. Like, I can't tell if Gojo himself deactivated it on purpose or if something happens where he kind of got confused as to why he used dismantle instead of cleave, and then he deactivated it to try to save face or something. I don't know what's really going on with that, but I do want to know everybody's interpretations in the comment section down below. There's a lot of different kind of theories running through my mind as to why he could have done that. Maybe he didn't want, Sukuna to adapt his cleave to his cursed energy. Maybe he deactivated it for that, and he kind of interpreted that dismantle as a cleave, and maybe he did that to, sort of, see if he can just dodge the attack instead of letting Sukuna adapt to his cursed energy. I'm thinking it could be something like that, or maybe there's something else kind of going on. Maybe that's not really how cleave works. Maybe that's not how it interacts with this infinity. At this point, we just don't know. None of us know exactly what's going on with these two and how they're going to match up, or how Sukuna is going to actually be able to hit Gojo, but definitely let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comment section down below. Also, like the video if you liked it and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for stopping by. I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm out. Peace.